Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another edition of our Real Estate Backstory. My name is Alan Richard. I'm the managing broker at Maximum One Realty and Realtor Partners.
My name is Ming Richardson. I'm the compliance broker for Maximum One Realty and Realtor Partners.
And today we are blessed to be joined by our friends at Lueder, Larkin Hunter. We have both Deb and Deb. I always mess up your last name, so I know it's Kalish. Yeah, well, you're
Kalish.
muted, so right now I can say it anyway I want to.
Kalish.
Okay.
Kalish,
I don't know why I goofed that up. I'm sorry.
That's okay. My grandfather used to say Kalish. So there's probably no one way.
That works. Also, we have Beth with us. Beth Hudson is also with us today. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We sure appreciate you joining us or taking some time out. I know Mondays are fun days.
9 a.m. in the morning.
So we love starting our week off this way, kind of thing, and we love the fact that we have access to you guys and being able to pick your brains. So we got a couple of things that we're hoping to run by you and kind of see what throw you into the spider's web here and see what wiggles. So we kind of want to start off first, and there's some new information came out that said remote online notarization is up, but most lenders aren't accepting it. I mean, what are you guys seeing on that? And how's that really? I mean, we're not seeing that use here in Georgia hardly at all on our end, but we don't do the closings, but we just don't see that much remote notarizations. Is that going on and we just don't know about it, or?
It is. Beth, you can take that one if you want.
Yeah, well, in some states it was legalized before COVID. But in Georgia, it's not been legalized per se, but because of COVID, the governor has issued an executive order that allows us to notarize a document that we witness over Zoom. But that's only temporary. So it's only been since March. And basically, the governor issued an executive order in March for a couple of months. And then every month, it almost expires. And the day it almost expires, he extends it by another month. So I believe right now we have it through mid-February, but that could go away at any point. So it's only in Georgia. The other states you could do it anyway, but right now we can only do it because of an executive order from the governor that could eventually go away.
But here in Georgia, we're also an attorney state. There's a lot of states that aren't necessarily attorney states, and so it just kind of seems like a moot point to me in Georgia anyway.
Well,
but I know what you guys take on that is.
It's been helpful though. I mean, in our two offices haven't seen it. We haven't used it a lot, but some of our offices, it does have to be approved by the lender, and a lot of lenders are fine with it, and some are not fine with it. So it has helped us quite a bit though, for especially. So, we can do it on cash deals. The person has to actually be physically located in Georgia for us to even do this. But we have had a few where there was a seller in a nursing home and they couldn't leave. I've got one coming up this week. I've had quite a few where it was related to a seller, and a few refinances, and a few sales for borrowers. Just it has come in handy, but it's not as widespread. We haven't used it a ton, but it's been helpful.
Yeah. Well, it's just good for agents to know that it is an option for that, that small piece of your buyers and sellers that may need that's out there, kind of thing.
Right.
Yes. Exactly.
And this morning, it does help quite a bit. So Deb and I, we had a case recently, and we were talking about layman defects. And so with that leading in today, I'd like to discuss with you, Deb, about the new form that came out with GAR in reference to investors, flippers, or people that's never lived in a house, like estate sale or trustee account, REOs and stuff like that. So the new form that came out talks about seller disclosure, layman defects, and fixture checklists. Because in the past, we have sellers say, I never live in there, I have no clue what the house has not, or any condition of it. So now the guard came out with this form, so the investor and flippers and other folks that are non-occupant of the property can fill out this form for the buyer. And why is that, Deb? Is it, what do you think this is helpful as far as for a buyer beware state?
Oh, I think this is great because so many sellers, like you said, couldn't fill out the property disclosure form, but they may know of a latent defect, and from even if they've never lived there, they may have had something repaired or an inspection on their own inspection when they bought that property, or if it was a foreclosure. So a bank, like you said, any of those categories of sellers have to now, I mean, this has always been the case, but there was no, the disclosure wasn't really the right form to disclose latent defects. So now this is a standalone form, F302, seller's disclosure of latent defects. And now they've also incorporated the fixtures checklist that's into this. So I love it. It's because it's always been Georgia law. It says, the first thing it says, Georgia law requires a seller to disclose latent defects in the seller's property to the buyer of the property of which the seller is aware and which could not be discovered by the buyer upon a reasonably careful inspection of the property. So it's a hidden defect. And it goes on to give an example. It's a defect in the property that is hidden. So for example, a defective septic system or termite damage that has been covered over have been found by our courts to be latent defects. If a defect is obvious, it does not need to be disclosed because it's not latent. It doesn't say that, but it's not latent. If a defect has been corrected, it is no longer a defect. Of course, since the parties can disagree over whether a defect is obvious or has been properly repaired, erring on the side of disclosure is recommended, and that's always the case. And
Absolutely.
Always for agents to remember disclosure, always better. And you have nothing to lose by disclosing. And yes, right. So I think this is a fantastic new development in the forms.
Can I throw out my devil's advocate on a couple of things and hit you with a couple of questions as well? So
Maybe.
The first one is like, well, but previously, state law didn't require that sellers fill out a disclosure, a property disclosure. With this new document, are they really required to fill this out? Is this a mandatory form? My second question is, how many of my agents are going to end up doing two of these? I see that because they look somewhat similar, one's a shorter version, and we know agents like to it looks very close. They, now they have the fixtures checklist just like the standard disclosure does. Are there any concerns with, do we need to do both? Is it one or the other, or is it neither kind of thing? So, those are two of the things that I'm just trying to avoid the complications on the contract side of things. I know that Ming and Beth, you guys deal with that a lot every single day. So I just wasn't sure what your take on those issues were.
I have to use my gut feeling on that because I don't really know, since it's so new. I would say because there's a little box on this form that you can check that says no known latent defects, I'd fill this out with the property disclosure. I mean, that's what I would do. So
you're saying doing a seller disclosure plus this, or just this
when
it's
investor property? It's got, where's the new GAR form? Does it have this as a standard exhibit, the new purchase agreement? Let's see. Let me see if they added it to the little boxes. I would fill it out because it does have.
Yeah, I know that we do, but especially.
It does have this little box you can check that says no known latent defects. So I would err on the side of filling it out and check the box, but I don't know how it's going to end up.
Yeah, that's one concern I have, because I already know that most of the banks will not and they don't use anything GAR, and they don't care what your GAR form says. You know, I'm
No, they're
gonna
gonna do
get
their
a
as
standard bank
is.
contract.
Yeah, they're gonna do an as is. They're used. You know, they always do the as is form or clause or something. So, and that's fine. I mean, they can do that, and that's their way of saying they don't know of any latent defects, which they probably don't.
Right.
Well, and what I see is that even if you use a standard GAR form, the bank always have their addendum or exhibit. The exhibit actually trumps the purchase and sale, even though purchase sale may say has certain language in there, but the exhibit, typically trumps it. So, and that's where that is. And what I see this form is good for are for investor flippers, REO, estate sales and stuff like that. For people that has never lived in a property, but for them to fill out a regular seller disclosure when they really don't know how old the HVAC, how old the plumbing fixture, the roof and stuff like that, you will get a lot of, basically we don't know. So, this is a shorter version of form that came out by GAR to kind of combat some of the issues, as well as making a seller say, hey, what appliances are staying? Because a lot of time, even a estate sale, maybe there's a chandelier or some sort that they want to keep, but because there's no disclosure, we don't know what's staying, what's going. So, and this kind of makes it a checklist for those folks that have never lived in property and given, let the buyer kind of be a little more informed about what's really staying, what's not staying and stuff like that.
I see what you mean. Where they don't, the ones that don't really want to fill out the property disclosure. They have to
because they truly have no information on property disclosure. So, so this is a good, like a compromise, so to speak. I'm sure this form is going to be edited at some point because, as we introduce anything new, sometimes we have issues and that issue gets a correction on it.
Oh yeah, like look at the attorney forms. How that thing's evolved. Every time we create a new form, we create 4 problems that go with it. So I know that they're needed. I'm not cracking on the forms committee. It's a big job, and I don't take it lightly. But a lot of times we try and correct one issue, we make 3 more. So that's my only concern on here a little bit, kind of thing.
So the remainder are just a couple, the form itself that's on the screen. We'll go down.
Yeah.
So that's about it.
Yeah, they also it does list items needing repair, which is a kind of an odd thing because it's about disclosure, but it's about latent defects, and is an item needing repair a latent defect? It's just going to be weird to see how this thing evolves right here. I'm just not sure what the items needing repair section is really going to.
Well, I know based deal with REO in the past that we have seen REO company go in there. They know there's mold in the basement. So, they cut off sheetrock halfway through the basement area to correct the issue. Whether or not they're going to put the sheetrock back or sell us is, and sometimes I see estate sale where the seller already knew the issue and they are willing to repair those issues because it is a required FHA or VA loan process.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this form. I believe this form's going to end up getting modified again, maybe on the mid-year changes. We'll see. Is there any other takeaway from this, Deb or Beth, that you guys have on the F302? Oh, sorry, I can't remember what it's called. F302, yes.
Just the last thing on that here is that here's the buyer signing it as an acknowledgement of the disclosure. It's not an agreement. It's just saying I'm in receipt of this. Thank you very much. But
Okay.
But I think like we were talking about the other day, if the buyer had an inspection and their inspector found something and it's on the report, is not a latent defect.
Really quick, I do have a question on that, Deb. So the way guard form is written, it on the seller disclosure, they're talking about latent defect, not necessarily a disclose, because concrete settles cracks all the time, and we don't always notice it, especially in an area that we don't walk around sometime. And so I guess my question to you is that seller disclosure was only talk about latent defects, or when you check no, or is aware of the issue, correct?
Mhm. Aware is a big word, right? If they're
Okay.
aware of it. If they're not aware of it, they're not hiding anything. They can't
So
disclose
even if
it.
they check a no, even they check a no on question, and the
Mhm.
buyer wants to go after them on that.
The buyer, yeah, I mean, it's this, it's a, then it got, then it's, I'm not a litigator. I think, the seller, I mean, basically if the seller knows it, they have to put it on there. That's it. Cause otherwise they're hiding a defect and it can be fraud.
Right.
Well, in this particular case,
Either,
what
I mean,
we
they
saw
either know
happen
it or
was,
they don't. You know what I mean? Like they either know it is there or they don't.
Yeah, and you can't disclose something that you don't know. So I think it's on the
well, I
buyer
think
to
in the case, in the case that Ming's talking about, there was a crack in the garage floor, and
Right.
it was very visible. And the buyer walked right over it, and
It wasn't even on.
their inspector even noted it and said it doesn't look to be anything serious. But the sellers checked that there was no foundation issues that they knew of, and they didn't
No.
feel like it was. So that's just one of those instances where
Subject to interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some gray area, but I think if everybody can see that crack, it's not necessarily latent.
Right. That's my feeling too.
But Ming, you're going to
Okay.
talk to our litigator, Bert Johnson, is a great guy to talk to about that. He does a lot. He does that kind of. He's a litigator. He can, and he does a lot of contract litigation. So he'll be able to
Perfect.
help further.
Well, and
define
that kind of opens the door for the next thing that we were going to ask you about, and that is sometimes when we have earnest money disputes, the holder of the earnest money may defer to a interpleader. But what a lot of folks don't realize is that if they push it into interpleader, really what they've done is generally giving all the money to the interpleader. Not to be mean, but not always. But I mean, an interpleader is not a free service kind of thing. That's where we're hiring an attorney, basically to intercede, kind of thing. What does that process look like?
Well, I actually have one going on right now with Bert. So we withheld $5,000. This is actually seller repairs, not earnest money, but we withheld $5,000 from seller proceeds for the seller to do some repairs. He didn't do them. There was a big dispute, and so there's basically buyers and sellers are trying to sue each other over the $5,000 that we were holding. So we hired Bert to interplead it. And Bert basically has to file a petition with the court to transfer the funds to the court to be held, and then it's adjudicated by the court to determine who gets the funds. So we tried to get the buyer and seller to just agree to split the funds or come to some sort of resolution so that we wouldn't have to go to this. Because now I think it's $5,000 that are held in escrow, but up to $2,000 of that has already been spent on attorney's fees and court cost and filing cost and the time to go to the courthouse and file the petition and all of that. So it does just eat up a lot of those funds. And at the end,
so on the average, it's about $2,000 to just interplead.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's what we've seen so far. This is the first one I've dealt with, and thankfully there's $5,000 to work with. I don't think we'll hit that, but at the end of the day, I think it would have been a lot better if the buyer and seller could have just agreed to split the money or come to some sort of resolution rather than letting it get to
that's always where we are too. Yeah, if everybody just get along, kind of thing, it'd be really great.
So, all right. Really quick, Deb, one last question.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
ahead.
I was just going to say in the contract, the GAR contract specifies that the holder gets to deduct from the money, from the interpleader, from the earnest money, the cost of interpleading it. And then the prevailing party can get the reimbursed for all those costs and their own attorney's fees from the losing party. So it can be an expensive proposition, and it's a lot better if it's, once, a lot of times when we point that out to people, when we have do the 10-day letter and we tell them, hey, look, this is what's in the contract and what it's going to cost one of you, they will settle it out, maybe split the earnest money and be done with it or something.
That's great. If I can have a sample of your interplead letter, that'd be awesome. I use that as a guideline for this one.
Yeah.
Because the buyer is just not willing to listen at the end of the day and keep on sticking to a point. It's like pulling a word out of a paragraph. When you're going to read a whole paragraph, the word doesn't mean a thing, without what come before and what come after it. So, but I'm trying to be reasonable. And the buyer just wants to stick to that one point, in which really has no leg to stand on.
Well, they can try to exercise that, and Burke will talk to you about it. Yeah. Yep. I don't know.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's we're going to kind of jump ahead. So if you guys want to jump in with us, we'd love to have your thoughts or input kind of thing. So this week we have 2 different CE classes coming up. And it's the same class, 2 different days. So on Tuesday at 1:00, Dana's teaching 2021 GAR contract changes. And on Wednesday,
we're teaching the 2021 GAR contract changes as well at 9:30. So, and also Tuesday morning, we have accountability with Keisha. So y'all please join in with her. It's a great mastermind as well as accountability.
Yep.
And honestly, it's very similar to coaching. So, and this is a service that a lot of people pay for.
Yep. All right. Also, we are, I just want to take a quick moment and urge discretion. NAR came out and issued a statement, that we stand with democracy. And that's kind of where I would urge everyone, whether you are blue or red or green or purple, it doesn't really matter. We're all Americans. And, I'm just gonna urge discretion, because we are seeing all kinds of things flying back and forth on social media. And really it doesn't have a great place in your business. And so I'm just gonna beg you to be wise. I mean, the last couple of days we've seen all these folks who are still going on their political agendas, and really at this point there's really no point here. We need to be moving forward as a country. So please be wise. If you're using social media to try and grow your business, then try and keep it business focused and try and avoid as much of the political nightmares is really going on right now as you can. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't be political, that we don't all have political views, but we have to be careful of saying things that come back to bite us. We had one person on social media that not one of our agents, but it was like, if you've ever backed this person, then you're this and that kind of thing. And those kind of things are absolutes that end up haunting us, kind of thing. So let's just be really careful right now. We have very high hopes for the new Biden administration coming in. We're very excited about everything going on. And we're going to talk about kind of some things that we see going on in the economy and in the nation right now.
Pertain to our industry.
So Atlanta also got listed as one of the 10 best places to live in 2021. Yay on affordability. Yeah, we're number 5, which, in the U.S. is a pretty good thing. Affordability, we're 7 out of 10. Education, we're 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10, actually, yeah, that's great.
Well, in part that's because we have Georgia Tech, we have UGA, right, and then which is still within a distance, and then we have Mercer and Emory and that kind of stuff. So job market's a 7 out of 10. Unemployment is still relatively low here. Safety is one of our weaker places, weaker spots at 4 out of 10, and wellness is 9 out of 10. So overall, we have a booming job market, which is really great. We have the second highest number of federal jobs is here in the Atlanta area. On the downside is safety. So this is just a really great place for us to be moving into 2021. We love that folks are wanting to move and live in Atlanta, Georgia. And in Atlanta, we're just such a large regional area because, you know, the fact is you can be in Locust Grove or you can be in Cumming and you're still Atlanta kind of thing. So it's all over the place. On the kind of one of our negatives that we've had this past week is the U.S. lost about 140,000 jobs in December. And so that is a concern for us moving forward kind of thing. Unemployment claims are about 787,000. And right now we've got about 5 million continuing claims. So unemployment is still really, really high. On the positive side, which is another kind of interesting tidbit, we're starting off 2021 with the lowest mortgage rates in history again.
Well,
kind of
so what a way to start a new year, though.
It is. I mean, I am very, it only dropped 0.01%, but hey, it dropped. You know, that's a very positive move of where things are going kind of thing. So we did hit a new record low for the first week of 2021. Also, manufacturing numbers came out. Manufacturing is up heavily right now.
60%.
Yeah, 60%, which is really great where we, you know, it's great to see. And you can see since 2014, manufacturing is actually at one of its highest peaks. And we're kind of hopeful to keep seeing that going. So much of our manufacturing have moved outside of the States, and with the US or with coronavirus availability of products were really tough. And so people have had to look at their supply chains. And so we're kind of hopeful to see manufacturing continue to grow. Also, the December 2020 housing trends report came out, and we hit a all new record low for number of homes on the market. Since they started measuring NAR, we hit below 700,000 homes for sale in the U.S. ever.
First time on record. So which was 40% over last year.
Yeah, well, down 40% from last year. 40% less homes on the market this year than we did last year, kind of thing. And so that's what's really driving a lot of our price appreciation that we're seeing, is the fact that the demand is high, supply is low. Now, is that going away? No, it isn't. So, you know, the number of U.S. households projected to grow by 12 million more families. So we're making babies. Woohoo! Gen X and millennials are going to keep trying to, there's going to be a lot of COVID babies, not just this kind of COVID baby, but like real actual babies kind of thing. But if you look at, I wanted to kind of point out this slide right here, and you can see that the median first-time home buyer age right now is 33 years old. And so this is where we stand right now. And you can see that that our millennial and our millennial buyers right now are between 28 and 30. And so as they continue to get a little bit older over the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to continue to see an even bigger demand for housing as these folks move into the median first-time home buyer age. So we are not looking at the market softening, slowing, anything like that, because again, we're making babies faster than we're building houses. So also Zillow released their 2021 expectations. And so they're expecting a growth of around 6%, 5.9% up. And so, you know, you can see that Zillow is, this is Zillow's numbers right here. And they are kind of, they were a little bit slow to get all the other information out. And they're projecting pretty heavily. You can see where our market's been. So to see home sales jump up again, a lot of that is kind of predicated on the fact that coronavirus is going to subside, that kind of thing. And that really does kind of open the door into what we wanted to talk about next, and that is COVID-19. We talk real estate here. I'm not political. I'm not trying to get into anything about. I'm not an expert on coronavirus, but what my concerns are is, and as a business owner, is that I'm seeing where a lot of Americans and a lot of agents and even we have kind of taken this news that the vaccines are on the way and that everything's great. And so the, mask wearing is going down. Even in our offices, we gotten lax as well. And so, we're going to be trying to tighten up a little bit because right now COVID is spiking. And while I do know that there is a light at the end of the horizon on the with the vaccines coming, get in here yet, folks. And we got to be diligent. We need to be smart. So, I don't want to put anyone at risk. I'm also not I'm not all about, restraining anybody's rights and doing that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I am gonna do my best, and I'm gonna encourage you to do your best, that we protect ourselves, protect our families, and protect each other. So again, I'm not trying to be political with it at all. I just want us to be smart and respectful. And so we're going to try and do our part in our offices as well. We're going to be putting in new, advanced cleanings and making sure we're doing our part on that. And I just encourage you to do the same. So right now, our buyers are extremely pessimistic. So right now we've seen where the number of respondents, they did a survey, and the number of respondents who said was now a good time to buy went down from 57% to 52%. And the same thing is, was it a bad time to buy? Increased from 35 to 39. So, right now, our buyers and our sellers are both more pessimistic right now. Our sellers one of the biggest challenges for a lot of our sellers is that there's no houses to buy. So, if you sell your house, you're homeless, kind of thing.
And that's some of the situations that a seller have gotten themselves into. So, listing agent, make sure you coordinate on the other end and communicate with the buying side as well. I always recommend a 30-day temporary occupancy, if not 60-day if needed, but no more than 90 because they become mortgage fraud. As an owner occupant. Now, an investor, not a problem. So,
and we're also seeing a lot of price appreciation as one of the other challenges right now. But where a lot of the price appreciation is happening is away from the coast. Normally, normal trends, the coast kind of drives values nationwide. But with COVID, you don't have to work in cities anymore and that kind of stuff. And so we're seeing where home price appreciation is happening heavier on non-coastal cities like, I don't know, Atlanta. So, but that being said, right now, one thing that we do have going on is that the suburb, the appeal for the suburbs is waning just a little bit. We'll see what happens once the vaccines come into full swing. But there for a while, it was like everything was heading to the suburbs, and it has been
getting out from suburbs.
And that leads us in. There was a new study that came out that talked about home affordability in the U.S. kind of thing. And so the U.S. Home Affordability Report came out. And this is one of the things that concerns me, is that home prices was up by at least 10% more in 3 quarters. Over 75% of the U.S. saw home price increases of over 10%. And while we do have low interest rates right now, the home affordability, the home pricing has outpaced
the interest
rates. And so even a slight uptick in interest rates could be really, really tough for our buyers, especially right now, kind of thing. 79% of neighborhoods in the U.S. increased by over 10% last year, and that's more than we can sustain long term, kind of thing. Right now, the average wage needed to afford the median, the average starter home is over $75,000, and that's another affordability issue. If your household's not making $75,000, you're probably not getting into a home. Right now, previously, we had around 43% of the housing markets were less affordable. Now 55% of the markets are less affordable. And right now, price appreciation is up greater than wage growth in 90% of the markets in the U.S. And that's kind of a troubling issue. I know that it depends on which side of the coin that we're talking about. As a seller, if I'm going to sell my house, boy, I want to get every penny I can. And so we're seeing where I'm not saying our sellers are greedy by any means, because if it was your house, you'd want every penny that you could get out of it as well. But the challenges, and this is kind of leading into some of the challenges we're seeing on the appraisal issues. The appraisers are kind of the stopgap for that to a large extent. You know, the mortgage industry really has done a very good job throughout the pandemic, because in previous recessions, you know, it was the mortgage industry that kind of took it on the chin. If we look back at 08,
Right.
and the controls they had, this time they put a lot of controls in place right away. And one of those stopgap measures is the appraisal issue. So so understand that we are seeing a lot of appraisal issues, mainly because home prices are outpacing inflation, outpacing job wage growth, the whole 9 yards. And so as we move into next year, we're looking at I can see us in the 6% range. 4 to 7 is kind of where I'd like to see us. 10% is not sustainable for next year. We risk running back into that same bubble. So we're going to see where that really goes. One thing that will probably challenge that is going to be with the interest rates are going to start going up a little bit. They can't keep going down. I keep saying that. I said that for all of 2020, and they went down the whole year. But really, we just can't continue. Pretty soon, we're going to start giving people money or paying people to take money. I mean, it just can't get much cheaper than it really is right now. And so, but that is really going to affect our buyers to a large extent. So I am concerned about that. And that in turn will affect our sellers. So I kind of want to end off, you know, we started today's session is you know,
Just
all
say
about
no.
the power of no. Just say no. And so I want to wrap with the ultimate productivity hack is to say no. I know that sounds like a weird thing to kind of jump in with, but the power of no is really, really strong. You know, one of the toughest things to do is to say no. For example, having no meeting takes way less time than having even a short meeting. And so being able to say no to things is one of the best things we can do to increase our productivity. And I know it sounds silly, but for real, there is a lot of things that we can do. Too often, especially us in the real estate world, you know, we're a yes industry. Want to go see a house? Yes. Ready to go here? Yes. I mean, we will drop everything for our clients. And so yes is kind of ingrained into us. And it's very easy, you know, for a lot of realtors, you know, it's kind of like, hey, can we? Sure thing. I mean, before they even say anything, our immediate go-to is yes. But we kind of be a little bit careful on there kind of thing. We don't want to come across as being rude or arrogant or unhelpful, but we have to be really smart about our time, because there is a big difference between yes and no kind of thing. And a lot of people think that they carry the same weight, but they really don't kind of thing. When you say no, you're only saying no to one option. But when you say yes, you're saying yes to everything kind of thing. And so it's just very easy. It's kind of like with my parents. Anytime I went to my parents when I was a kid, I said, can we, what's the first statement out of mine as well as a lot of y'all's? No. Yeah, just the answer is no. Now we can negotiate from the point of no just fine. But if we start off with yes, boy, we're off to the races then kind of thing. So no is a decision, yes is a responsibility. We've got to be very careful for taking that on. And so, you know, we need to kind of upgrade our no. You know, being able to say no is one of those powerful things that we need to be able to do in order to manage our time and to be able to handle the business that we need to. It's very easy, and we're all very quick to say yes, but we need to be quick about saying no and really kind of drop into that whole thing. You know, one of the biggest things is that I'm going to encourage you to use about saying no is just as a rule of thumb. You know, if I had to do this today, right now, would I agree to it? See, because when someone says, hey, can we go do this? Would you be willing to stop right now and go do this for your friend, business associate, client, whatever? If you can say yes, then that's probably something that you would say yes to. But too often we say yes because it's a future thing. And then we think, gosh, I'll have more time then. Has that ever happened to anybody? No, nothing at all. That does not happen that way, because when a day, 2 days, 3 days later come along, you're just as busy as you were that day. And then at that point, that's when we end up giving our schedule and all of our time away to people. So it's not a really positive thing to talk about, no. And honestly, this is one of those where I'm preaching to myself a little bit, because I'm the yes guy pretty quickly, and I'll take on more tasks and more things, and I'm quick to say yes, and I'm working really hard on being able to manage myself and to say no, and say yes to the things that are really important to me, my business, my family, and saying no to some of the other distractions and things that really don't help me or my clients, kind of thing. So I was going to end with a quote from Peter Drucker. He's kind of like the godfather of business management, that kind of thing. He said, "There's nothing so useless as doing efficiently that which could not be done at all." So again, use your power of no. Beth, Deb, we appreciate you guys being on here. Thank you so much. I hope I didn't allow for a lot of comment for a lot of that, but I just want to tell you thank you again. Any parting comments for us?
Thank you for having us. We really appreciate the opportunity to work with all of you guys, and we really enjoy it.
And just want you to know, we do have special team with Deb and Beth. And the email for that, when you write your contract, please put max1vip@luederlaw.com. This will go to their team, and they can coordinate wherever your client wants to close. They got about 23 different locations, and that your buyer and seller doesn't have to be in one location at one time.
Yeah.
So it's all.
They can close anywhere, but then Beth and Deb can make sure that your transaction is processed personally and make sure that it's done perfectly.
Thank you.
They don't care where you sign at.
And we also have another location now in your Fayetteville office. So
That's right.
That's right.
Right. If you want to use that, put us in the contract, and we'll come over and close. We have an office inside your office, and then we have use of the conference room.
Yeah. So you can close in the Fayetteville office as well. So, but that's one of the things we love is that, you can take your clients anywhere with you guys. That's really super helpful.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
All right.
We appreciate you.
Thank y'all very much. Y'all have a great day. Call, text, smoke signals. We answer it all. Bye, y'all.
Happy Monday. Take care.